It's Monday, March 16th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Fuel costs continue to climb as businesses struggle with maintaining prices. Concern is growing over possible cuts coming in the New Brunswick budget.
Rain and high wind for St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. A drop in temperatures follows for Wednesday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. As we begin a new week, we start with a familiar issue, the rising price of fuel that appears to have no end as the war in the Middle East continues. The high costs are now impacting businesses. CTV's Emma Convey reports.
This courier company makes up to 150 deliveries a day. Trips could be anywhere in the greater Halifax area. Their vehicles all rely on gas.
Gas is getting more expensive. I think everybody realizes it from driving themselves as well as when they need to have things delivered. So it's an unfortunate element of the business.
The plan is to hold back on passing the cost onto the customer, but that may become difficult with the continued rise in fuel prices.
We'll just continue to maximize the efficiencies as best we can, leverage our smaller vehicles, because the bigger the vehicle, the more it costs for gas. Those are the sorts of things that we have to look at. And again, with our pickups and those pieces as well, consolidating as much as we can so that we're not passing on those prices.
Gas jumped by 6.7 cents per litre over the weekend in Nova Scotia, bringing it to just over $1.68. Diesel is now $2.20. In New Brunswick, gasoline increased to $1.69.8. Diesel at almost $2.24. While prices are now 180.3 cents per litre in PEI, diesel is a little over $2.32 per litre.
Right across the country, a rather dramatic increase, which doesn't seem to be halting, although one would think that by Wednesday of this week, we could actually see things drop a tiny bit, maybe as they did last Thursday, maybe dropping a penny for gasoline and maybe 3 or 4 cents a litre for diesel. Markets are taking a wait-and-see approach.
McTagg says the net increase for gasoline across the Maritimes has been about 20 cents a litre since February 27th. That's behind the rest of Canada, but to motorists here, an increase is an increase.
We're not driving unless we absolutely need to. So it's almost on an emergency basis.
All of these fuel prices that are going up abnormally high are impacting people's lives, the affordability.
Oil and, offshore drilling, and that they still get away with charging this much. It doesn't make any sense.
Now, regulated fuel pricing in our region has kept price spikes lower here than in other parts of Canada. A good thing for consumers, but not so great for these gas companies who are left absorbing the difference between the world gas prices that they're paying and what they're charging at the pumps. Todd.
All right, Emma Convey starting us off in Halifax tonight. Thank you for that. It's the eve of a pivotal moment for New Brunswick and Susan Holt's Liberal government. The provincial budget will be tabled tomorrow, and by every account, it will include cuts. CTV's Nick Moore spoke with groups concerned about what might come.
The Susan Holt Liberal government is approaching its second budget with the highest deficit in New Brunswick history at $1.3 billion.
I think this will really be a turning point for the whole government. This week, to me, is a kind of a starting point for them dealing with some of the things that they promised they would do in the 2024 campaign and maybe not fulfilling those promises and figuring out how to communicate why they fell short in certain areas.
The New Brunswick Federation of Labor is expecting an austerity budget on Tuesday.
We're going into it expecting, always expect the worst. We just have a feeling that cuts are coming, and we're prepared to do whatever it is that we need to do as an organization to support workers should the cuts come down.
The association, which represents more than 100 museums in the province, has been raising concerns about the budget in a campaign for the past few weeks.
We are planning to be in Fredericton tomorrow when the budget is announced, just to see, how bad is the pain. I don't think it's a matter of if there are going to be cuts to tourism, heritage, and culture. I think it's a matter of what is being cut, how, you know, how do they shave the budget, and how is it going to affect our individual properties.
On Friday, at a healthcare announcement, Premier Holt said every department, including health, would be expected to get spending under control.
Every department was asked to find opportunities to save, to do things differently, to have the things that they're going to stop doing, and that work is ongoing.
Recently, Nova Scotia's Tim Houston government introduced budget cuts of up to $130 million, walking back $53.6 million of those cuts after a large public outcry.
It'll be interesting to see if any of that plays out in New Brunswick as well.
Finance Minister René Legacy is expected to read his budget speech around 1 p.m. tomorrow. Nick Moore, CTV News, St. John.
And there is a live look at St. John right now where it is 8 degrees, and should note that we will have full coverage of the New Brunswick budget tomorrow evening. We will speak with the finance minister as well. Let's bring in CTV meteorologist Kayla Mitchell right now. We're going to talk about the weather warnings that you've been watching, but we want to start with some snow totals from the weekend.
Yeah, a quick recap of Saturday's weather system that made its way through the Maritimes. And it consisted both of some bands of some heavier snow and some pockets of some lighter snow as well. But there were a few standouts. One of those, Miramichi, could have finished with 25 centimeters or more in total as far as the snow went. And our viewer picture for tonight at the end of the program is going to come from Miramichi. It's going to show a very snowy scene there for that community. There were also some other areas that picked up some amounts that could have been just over the 10-centimeter mark, including in around the Fredericton area. The reports there varied quite highly, and it could have been dependent on the elevations, maybe higher elevations picking up a bit more snow compared to lower elevations. Bayfield, Prince Edward Island reported about 14 centimeters of snow, and parts of eastern Nova Scotia, especially into Cape Breton, there were some snowfall reports between around 15 and 20 centimeters. In general, the snow tapered a little bit lower towards the southwest of New Brunswick and southwestern areas of Nova Scotia. Now, this next weather system arriving today, tonight, and for Tuesday, this one's just packing rain and wind with it. We're already into the first round of rain here in the Maritimes. There's likely to be some downpours with that, especially for parts of Nova Scotia, but also a chance of a few downpours this evening in around southern areas of New Brunswick, and more rain to come as we make our way through tonight and tomorrow. The second round is what's working its way up the eastern seaboard of the U.S. right now, coming through areas like Washington, New York, and Boston. That'll be arriving overnight into Tuesday morning for the Maritimes. At the same time, we're going to be into some high and gusty southerly winds. That's because of a strong pressure gradient that's set up between the center of the storm system, which is making its way out of southern Ontario into southern Quebec, and a large area of high pressure, which is sitting just to the east of the Maritimes. So we're being squeezed between those two weather systems here in the region. There are rainfall warnings in effect up and down the Atlantic coastline of mainland Nova Scotia for the Atlantic coastal counties, as well as in the Tri-County region of that province. Some totals of 30 to 60 millimeters of rain expected. Parts of the south of New Brunswick also underneath a rainfall warning, including St. John and around the Bay of Fundy coastline, which you saw there on the camera shot from St. John. Raindrops there collecting on the camera lens. 30 to 60 millimeters possible there as well. Up towards Fredericton, could be as much as 20 to 30 millimeters of rain. The ground's frozen. It's got a reduced capability to absorb that type of rain. There'll also be snow melt adding to it, so it does increase the risk of things like hydroplaning conditions on the roads and some localized flooding. Wind warnings are also in effect across the south of New Brunswick and across Nova Scotia. Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, some of those south winds will peak with gusts near 90 kilometers per hour, up to 120 kilometers per hour in northern Inverness County in Cape Breton. They're, Todd, because of the topography of the Cape Breton Highlands. Right. All more on the timing of this weather system. I'm back a little bit later on.
Okay, we will see you then. Now, folks who live along the St. John River will be keeping a close eye on water levels. CTV's Avery McRae reports.
In the village of Gagetown, there's not much activity on the St. John River. But the first big rainstorm of the New Brunswick River Watch season means the scene here could change rapidly.
Fortunately for the bigger systems, we've got lots of room at this point. So we're not overly concerned.
Parts of the river are still frozen, while others have only just begun to open up. New Brunswick EMO Communications Director Paul Bradley says early forecasts don't show any flooding along the St. John River as a result of the mid-March storm.
That said, some of the smaller waterways, brooks, streams, those tend to fill up quickly. So you could see some localized flooding in those types of things. In terms of significant big waterways, like nothing from this one.
He reminds the public that the Riverwatch forecast can change rapidly. He also notes it's best practice to avoid the waterways this time of year due to unstable banks and fast-moving currents. In St. John, where the river ends, flooding concerns come in other places.
Obviously in the Glen Falls and east side areas of St. John, typically we get to do some localized flooding, so we'll be watching for those.
City crews are preparing for upwards of 50 millimeters of rain, which combined with still frozen grounds and melting snowbanks is expected to cause lane closures and detours around the city. Tim O'Reilly also says homeowners should do a look around their home in prep for the storm.
Catch basins, downspouts, make sure they're free of ice and snow. And with the high winds, make sure that you have anything that's outside buckled down properly.
He also recommends people have a 72-hour emergency kit in the case of a power outage. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
Online, a future spaceport in Canso will get $200 million from Ottawa in the coming years to launch rockets. At 6:35, Nova Scotia Senior Cabinet Minister Sean Fraser will join us to talk about it. And there is more at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Police in Cape Breton are still looking for the driver involved in a weekend hit and run along the Lewisburg Highway that left a woman dead. CTV's Ryan McDonald spoke with police today and was at the scene.
Well, it was here along the Lewisburg Highway, a pretty busy 90-kilometer-per-hour stretch of road, where Cape Breton Regional Police say a woman was killed over the weekend in what they are calling a hit and run. Police were called shortly before noon on Sunday to this section of highway between Kristen Court and Hills Road and Albert Bridge. They say when officers arrived, the body of a young woman was found near the roadway and parts of a vehicle were also discovered, adding that although police were not called until late Sunday morning, they believe the collision happened sometime Saturday night. Today, traffic here was back to normal, but initially the area was closed for several hours with a significant police presence and traffic being diverted. Police say the victim's name is not being released at this time. Forensic ident, along with the traffic safety unit, are investigating, and police are still piecing together what kind of vehicle they are looking for.
Through the initial investigation, it was determined that it was a 23-year-old female who was deceased and a victim of a hit and run. There's no leads on the vehicle right now. Police are determining the make and model of the vehicle from some of the evidence left at the scene.
Meanwhile, police say they continue to look for tips from the public as the investigation continues. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Albert Bridge, Nova Scotia.
A high-risk offender wanted by police that we told you about on Friday has been arrested in Manitoba. 45-year-old Patrick Hislop has multiple criminal convictions for sexual offenses, including sexual assault and sexual interference involving a youth. Hislop was wanted on a province-wide arrest warrant in Nova Scotia for failing to comply with a release order. A widow of one of the 3 RCMP constables shot and killed in Moncton in 2014 is speaking out about the future of the memorial site that honors their memory and what's got her concerned. CTV's Derek Haggett has more.
Nadine Larch spoke to Moncton City Council late this afternoon about concerns she has regarding a riverfront development project and what that could mean for the Honor Garden area. Last fall, the city unveiled its Riverfront Master Plan, a long-term vision to make the area more active and accessible. The plan includes upgrades to trails and green spaces along the Petitcodiac River, but some changes could be decades away. Larch is concerned future plans may include new development near the RCMP Memorial, and she wants the area to be treated with respect and care. Larch told council the area immediately surrounding a monument honoring 3 fallen police officers should remain a quiet place.
I have serious concerns about initial proposals placing active recreational uses immediately beside this space, such as pump tracks, essentially a skateboard park, but for bikes, a splash area or a playground. I've also heard suggestions about moving the monument, which I strongly oppose.
The city's director of events and venues doesn't see moving the monument as a possibility.
Of course, when you're doing a project like this, you kick over every stone. You try every different option, and you look at things, and you really have to pick them apart. But there was no time where we thought that was ever, something that would be put into place.
The Honor Garden was created to remember Larch's husband, Constable Doug Larch, Constables Dave Ross, and Fabrice Gévaudan. The 3 Mounties were shot and killed in North End Moncton on June 4th, 2014. The city has been working with Trace Design, the lead consultant on the Riverfront project. The plan is still being finalized and is yet to come to council for approval. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
Public health care advocates in the Maritimes are worried about what they're seeing out in Alberta. They fear proposed legislation in that province could bring more private health care into the service system here. CTV's Jesse Thomas explains.
Over time,
provincial and federal health coalitions were in Dartmouth today to issue a warning about Alberta's Bill 11 and how it could reshape healthcare across the country.
if we allow for-profit health care to be established in the country, we know what these medical insurance companies are like. They're very aggressive. They have already shown interest, and they don't want to stay just in Alberta.
Proposed changes to health legislation in Alberta would allow doctors to work in both a public and private health system. Offering this kind of health care system would only benefit those who can afford it, said Benoit.
The concern is that people will be getting their health care based on their ability to pay and not their health care needs.
And across the country, health coalitions held information rallies like this one in Ontario. And the chair of the Canadian Health Coalition is calling on the federal government to intervene.
The federal government is going to have to step up for Canadians and step up for health care, because as it stands right now, we know it's illegal and there needs to be step up, be clear, denounce it, and put a stop to it.
Earlier this month, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith told reporters she believed the dual system could improve timely access to care.
So our priority is the public system. We want to make sure that no one ever has to pay out of pocket for medically necessary care, and we will be monitoring it.
The Nova Scotia Health Coalition argues the dual system would stretch doctors thin, increasing public wait times.
There's only so many physicians to go around.
The federal government confirmed it's in discussions with Alberta to ensure Canadians continue to receive medically necessary care based on need and not the ability to pay. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
A moose that was roaming around Moncton neighborhoods on the weekend has been put down. The young animal had been walking through residential areas. It was near a fence and building and in poor health when officials ultimately found it. It appeared to be affected by winter tick infestation. Now, because of concern to public safety, the decision was made to put the moose down.
Get the Maritimes top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A decommissioned bridge on New Brunswick's Route 8, pegged to be a future path for all-terrain vehicles and snowmobiles, will be demolished instead. The old Anderson Bridge near Miramichi was replaced last year with a brand new one right next to it. Quad NB and Snowmobile NB had been working for several years to incorporate the old bridge into its trail system. But the province says that option is no longer being pursued due to the unknown scope of additional work required to make the bridge safe for use. There's no timeline or budget for the demolition of the bridge. We will take a break now. Still to come, rain, drizzle, fog. We're getting it all tonight. Kaylin has the details and the full forecast. But next, a burn ban in March?
We make the call at 2 p.m. daily if those restrictions should change.
We'll tell you why Nova Scotia had a burn ban despite snow and rain. It's after the break. There was a burn ban in place for the entire province of Nova Scotia until this afternoon. With snow on the ground and rain in the forecast, a burn ban might not seem to make sense. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness explains why it was imposed in the first place.
It's officially wildfire season in Nova Scotia, and despite the fact there's snow on the ground in many regions, the entire province was under a burn ban yesterday until mid-afternoon today.
So we look at the best wildfire science data from our 31 weather stations across the province. We make the call at 2 p.m. daily if those restrictions should change.
Gordon Delano, the executive director of the Department of Natural Resources, admits it's been a busy last few years for wildfires. All of last year's fires are now out, but crews are still keeping an eye on those areas.
The department will be monitoring those sites to ensure that we don't have any spot fires that start up again. Certainly that is a thing in wildfire management, to continually monitor those sites for the safety of everyone around.
DNR has 300 staff heading into this year, ready to be deployed to hot spots around the province. And fire crews will be working with some new equipment this summer if needed. 4 new fixed-wing water bomber aircraft and 4 new helicopters have been purchased.
Certainly very exciting, and again, it'll really set us up well for wildfire season.
2 of the new helicopters are already here. The other 2 are expected to arrive next month. Wildfire season in Nova Scotia runs from mid-March until mid-October, unless it's extended like it was in 2025. Jonathan McGinnis, CTV News, Halifax.
Well, certainly weather coming into our region is going to help with that. Windy Tuesday, rain moving through. Kaylin has the details in your full forecast right after this. That's a foggy, wet evening in Digby right now. 10 degrees as we bring in meteorologist Kayla Mitchell. And this is exactly what you were calling for. And it's coming into the region, obviously, down the southwest first and making its way up.
More like it to come as we move through tonight and even into tomorrow. And glad you pointed out the temperature there, sitting at 10 degrees. Temperatures in the Maritimes will actually continue to rise as we make our way through tonight. And generally speaking, temperatures will be at their mildest tomorrow morning before they begin to fall a little bit later in the day.
So a lot of places are going to lose their snow altogether.
I would say this one, yes. For those areas that are still holding on to a bit of snow, this is going to be another weather system that's going to take it down a little bit more. Let's take a look at the timing of it. So as I was talking about earlier with this weather system, this rain's sort of coming in 2 rounds. We've got the first round moving in this evening. That's going to have a chance of downpours with it, especially for the province of Nova Scotia. Now, round 1, as we move later into the evening, exits to the northeast. In between it and round 2, there'll be some patchy rain, drizzle, and fog around the Maritimes. Winds will still be gusty out of the south throughout the night, and in some cases, they actually get stronger into the start of the day for tomorrow. We'll talk more about the timing of the winds in a moment. And then round 2, when it comes to the rain, that arrives overnight into Tuesday morning for parts of New Brunswick and western areas of Nova Scotia. And around the south of New Brunswick and around the Atlantic coastal counties of mainland Nova Scotia and the Tri-County region in the southwest, there will once again be a risk of some downpours within that rain. Moving into Tuesday afternoon, it clears New Brunswick, it clears western areas of Nova Scotia, but the rain will hold on to parts of the eastern shore of Nova Scotia and Cape Breton into Tuesday evening before it exits off towards the northeast. And then finally, as we move into Tuesday evening and Tuesday night, the winds begin to come down as far as their overall strength goes, but they'll be out of the west, and that's going to start to bring in the return of some chillier air to the Maritimes. So temperatures will be coming down for the middle part of this week. Rainfall amounts of this weather system, fairly widespread, 10 to 30 millimeters in the Maritimes. Some areas where the rainfall warnings are in effect could see some amounts of 30 to 60 millimeters. Other things you have to keep in mind with rain this time of the year, ground still frozen in many areas, so that leads to increased runoff. There will also be some snow melt adding to it. If you have a chance, and I know it's kind of getting late in the day now, take a look around your property and make sure your drainage systems are free and clear of any winter debris. It's always a good idea to do so, just help that water run off. Also be careful about hydroplaning conditions where there's any ponding water on the roads. Now, the winds in the forecast will be out of the south for tonight into the start of the day for tomorrow. Some of the strongest of the winds will develop early Tuesday morning around the southwest of New Brunswick and the southwest of Nova Scotia. Some of the peak wind gusts there could reach 90 kilometers per hour, especially upon exposed areas of the coast and some of the higher terrain. And this area of stronger southerly winds will then move southwest to northeast across Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island as we move from Tuesday morning into Tuesday afternoon. And in behind it, the wind direction becoming westerly for Tuesday evening and night, and the overall wind gust diminishing down to a range of around 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Here's a look at temperatures. Now, these are where I expect temperatures to be by around midnight tonight, and you can see that for most of the Maritimes at that time around the high single digits and low teens. So these are not low temperatures tonight. Instead, this is where I expect temperatures to be by around midnight. Tomorrow, temperatures will begin to come down through the day in the northwest of New Brunswick, eventually by mid to late afternoon falling into a range of 0 to 4 degrees. Other areas of New Brunswick, though, for tomorrow through the first part of the day should still hold on to some temperatures around the low to mid-teens. And then really the cooling effect starts to come in later Tuesday evening and Tuesday night. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with high temperatures 10 to 14 degrees as the rainy and windy weather moves through. In Cape Breton, the high temperatures will be 10 to 15 degrees, maybe even near 17 for Ingonish. The North Shore of Nova Scotia with high temperatures around the mid-teens. And then on the eastern shore, most of the high temperatures will be between around 10 and 12 degrees. 12 degrees there for Sheet Harbour. 14 for Amherst and Truro for tomorrow. City centers, Halifax and Dartmouth near 12 degrees. It's going to be a rainy and windy morning around the Halifax area. Make sure you give yourself time and space on the roads. In the Annapolis Valley for tomorrow, high temperatures near 16 degrees. Bulk of the rain and the strongest of the winds move through in the morning. Same thing goes for the south shore of Nova Scotia. High temperatures there around 12, 13 degrees for most communities. In the extended outlook, beginning first with New Brunswick. So there's the cold air arriving for Wednesday, and it's chillier into the end of this week. Thursday, a mix of sun and cloud. There may be some snow that moves in Friday night into New Brunswick. It's followed by a chance of flurries on Saturday. Sunday, a mix of sun and cloud, and then a chance of flurries next Monday. For Nova Scotia, as we've been talking about, it is going to be a rainy and windy St. Patrick's Day this year, and then some colder air moves in Tuesday night. It's chillier for Wednesday. There'll be a chance of flurries on both Thursday and Friday of this week, a mixture of flurries and showers on Saturday, a mix of sun and cloud Sunday, and then a chance of flurries on Monday. And for Prince Edward Island in the outlook, it's colder into Wednesday. Daytime high temperature on Wednesday around -4. Near 0 on Thursday with a chance of flurries, up to +2 on Friday. Still with a chance of flurries. Up to 4 degrees on Saturday with a mix of flurries and showers. Mix of sun and cloud for Sunday, and then a chance of flurries on Monday of next week. Todd.
Hang on to those St. Patrick's Day hats.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Standing outside waiting to get into an establishment. All right, Kaylin, thank you. We will see you later in the show. Next, Federal Minister Sean Fraser will be here to talk about money for a spaceport in Canso that was announced today, among other things. And later, we will have this.
Award season coming to an end with the 98th Academy Awards. I'm ABC's Melissa Dawn, and coming up, we'll see some of the memorable moments and how one Oscar statue ended up at In-N-Out Burger.
Okay, so coming up on the show tomorrow, we have your chance to win a $250 gift card to St. Louis Bar and Grill. That's at 7:30.
And join us to find out how you could win season tickets to our Halifax Tides. Good luck.
Welcome back. Well, Ottawa is getting into the rocket launching business. It was announced today the federal government is spending $200 million over the next decade to lease a space launch pad at a port in Canso. Sean Fraser is Justice Minister. Tonight he joins us as a senior cabinet minister for Nova Scotia to talk about this, and there's defense implications to all of this. Why does Canada need to have its own rocket launching site?
Look, first of all, I can't tell you how excited I am about this announcement, not just because it's meeting a national need, but the economic opportunity for us in Nova Scotia. And as somebody from rural Nova Scotia, this means a little something extra.
That's a lot of money.
It sure is. It's $200 million. But look, it's your first question. The space economy is vitally important, and a lot of people don't realize. We use it for satellite technology when it comes to communications, when it comes to navigation. Of course, in a defense and security application, you also have surveillance or intelligence gathering needs that you need to meet, and we want to be in a position where we can build a Canada where we can stand on our own 2 feet. The Americans largely have this market cornered, and we don't want to be in a position where we have to go down south every time we want to support a Canadian company getting into the space, or we as the Department of National Defence actually has capacity. But it's not just Canada that feels that way. The rest of the world is looking for partners who can allow them to take part in the space economy as well. So while we meet our own needs, we're going to be putting up a big sign that says we're open for business. If you are looking to take part in the space economy and don't have your own domestic launch capacity, Canada suddenly appears on the map as an important alternative.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, the relationship with the United States on these matters has been very good for a very long time. We were happy to use their various launch sites. Is this about Canada relying less on America in general as a part of that? And who's going to use it? Who within what federal departments will be looking to use it?
So look, part of it is undoubtedly making sure that we can learn lessons from the fact that the trading relationships that we've enjoyed for many decades now with the Americans are not as trustworthy as they once were. You don't have to be a rocket scientist, so to speak, to figure that much out. But the other piece is that we're realizing as the world changes, Canada needs to change with it if we want to want to maximize the economic opportunities at home. 50 years ago, we may not have been in the same position when it became so vitally important for us to have domestic space launch capacity, the same way that it wasn't as important for us to have cell phone networks. But as technology emerges, modern threats emerge, threats to our space assets that exist today that are owned by Canada or Canadian companies need to be replaced. And to have domestic launch capacity where you know you're not going to be treated as a bottom priority from those who have their own launch capacity is an enormous, enormous value add. In terms of who's going to use it, certainly the Department of National Defense. We also had funding announced today for companies that are not just taking part in spaceport development, but rocketry companies that are going to be doing research there. There's private sector partnerships that Maritime Launch Services has already achieved with investors who will have use for the space. So it's going to be a mix of government research and defense purposes and private sector commercial opportunities, particularly in low Earth orbit satellites.
Okay, you mentioned Maritime Launch. They are the proponent here. You will be leasing it from them. Is there a proviso that it's the money stays in this region?
One of the things that's really important here is part of the defense industrial strategy is to A, meet the needs of the Canadian Armed Forces and defend Canada, but B, maximize the economic opportunity that comes with the investments we're going to make. 90% of the money being invested in this lease has to be spent on domestic suppliers. That's 180 million of 200 million minimum that's going to be supporting local companies. Already you're seeing local construction companies doing the work in rural Nova Scotia, getting people paychecks to put food on the table. Of course, when you're dealing with some of the more advanced proponents when it comes to rocketry, there will be companies from across Canada who are going to be interested. But this is not just a one-time shot in the arm for a small community. It's the birth of a new industry in the country that's going to have a flywheel effect as more players in the industry see opportunities for themselves. So this is a great news piece, but ensuring that we had a minimum spending requirement of 90% on Canadian suppliers is a key part of what's going to achieve that incremental economic growth after the project is complete.
You're answering this, which is a defense. I realize you're not the defense minister, but it sort of falls into that. So let me ask you about something that the U.S. president said today. He really made a demand that the NATO members step up and give aid, military support to assist the U.S. in the Strait of Hormuz. European countries, UK, basically stood up and said, no, not doing it. Would you expect Canada to take the same position? We didn't hear from the Prime Minister directly on that today.
Certainly, although he's discussed in public on a number of occasions Canada's position with respect to the war in Iran. Of course, we want to prevent the regime, which is the primary source of instability and suppression of human rights in the region, from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. But we don't intend to take part in any offensive led by the United States or otherwise. We want to be good partners in the region, but we're calling for de-escalation at this point in time, ensuring not just in the directly implicated areas in Iran or the Strait of Hormuz, but as you see the conflict spill into the region with terrible violence and potential further violence in Lebanon. We want hostilities to be taken down. The Prime Minister, jointly with other allied nations, issued a statement to that effect today. We think we have a role to play, but you should not expect to see Canada taking part in an offensive.
Okay, well, on that point, it was pretty quick and it was pretty direct. Is this NATO standing up, the NATO countries deciding, okay, we're not going to dance around the U.S. president anymore. This is what our position is. We say no, and is this signal perhaps a shift?
So Canada has to defend Canada's interest. That's going to demand at times we say the difficult thing to our best friends. But it's also going to demand at times that we work with other like-minded nations who are allies to come to a position that builds its strength in the numbers but behind it. When you see us collaborating with some of our allies that signed off to this statement, it's one example of the Prime Minister's speech in Davos being put into practice. We are going to work with like-minded nations of the world to pursue our collective interests, which also serves our individual interests. I think this is one example of Canada working with allies in that manner.
All right, Minister, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in tonight.
A pleasure.
You've got to drive back to Antigonish. We want to get you out of here before the rain starts. While you're in that seat, we're going to let you know that this is the CTV web poll tonight, and we're asking this Question, I think I know how the minister would respond. How do you feel about Ottawa spending $200 million on a space launch pad in Nova Scotia? Your options are, I'm for it, Canada should be able to launch its own satellites. I like the idea of a launch pad, but it seems like a lot of money. Or, I'm against it, we should not be spending money on space projects. And you can vote, of course, at the website. We'll be right back. Our look at healthcare now and how AI might be misguiding diet advice for teenagers. CTV's Callum Smith has more in the Lifeline tonight.
Teens relying on artificial intelligence to suggest diet advice might need to think twice. 5 different AI models were reviewed as part of a new study published in the journal Frontiers in Nutrition. It found that diet plans are underestimating required nutrient intake for adolescents, both micro and macro levels. Findings indicate that AI-based dietary recommendations are not appropriate without professional supervision, putting a spotlight on the need for model improvements for more reliable data generation. A body image expert is raising warning flags about a social media trend that's sending a negative message to boys and men. Looks maxing, as it's called, is a social media push encouraging boys and men to improve their physical appearance through, in some cases, extreme measures such as smashing their own facial bones to improve their bone structure, undergoing plastic surgery, or using steroids. The University of Toronto professor says it's worrisome and warns of people's social media impressions, likening it to the phenomenon tunnel vision. A new Mpox variant has been detected in Toronto, but experts say there is not enough data yet to determine whether it's more virulent or transmissible. Toronto Public Health notified the public last week that there have been 2 travel-related cases of the new strain. The health agency says Mpox most commonly spreads through close, intimate, or sexual contact, with LGBTQ2S+ men being the most commonly affected. Toronto Public Health says the risk of contracting the virus remains low for the public. With health and medical news, I'm Callum Smith for the Lifeline.
Time for the scene, and the Golden Boy himself will be coming home after last night's wins at the Oscar Awards by a pair of Maritimers.
And the Oscar goes to Tamara Deverell and Shane Gill for Frankenstein.
There they are, production designer Tamara Deverell, who lives in Inverness County in Cape Breton, and set decorator Shane Vio of Dartmouth won the Oscar for Best Production Design. The 2 Maritimers were the visual artists behind Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. For Deverell, this marked her first Oscar win following a previous nomination for Nightmare Alley. That was back in 2023. It's the second Oscar win in 4 nominations for Vio. Congratulations to our Maritime movie winners. And other Canadians took the stage for wins ranging from K-pop Demon Hunters to Best Animated Short. Sinners took 4 of the major awards, including Best Actor for Michael B. Jordan. That film was topped only by one battle after another. ABC's Melissa Dan was at the Oscars last night and has a look at how the stars celebrated.
The golden statuettes made official for the 2026 Oscars winners.
One battle after another.
Paul Thomas Anderson's drama taking home 6 Oscars, including Best Picture.
I think we take the work seriously, but we don't take ourselves very seriously.
Best Actress going to Jessie Buckley for Hamnet.
This is great.
And Amy Madigan taking home Best Supporting Actress, the only nomination for Weapons.
Oh my God. Well, it's 40 years ago that I didn't get the Oscar the first time. Yeah. But I've been playing music and acting professionally, since I've been 19 years old. I'm 75 now.
A touching surprise performance by Barbra Streisand, remembering Robert Redford and the stars lost in the last year. A moving tribute to honor Rob and Michelle Reiner. Many stars of Rob Reiner's films gathering on stage.
Michael B. Jordan.
Sinners taking home 4 Oscars, including Best Actor for Michael B. Jordan and his dual role. The first-time Oscar winner seen with statuette in hand celebrating with a burger at In-N-Out. The celebrations kicking off with festivities at the Governor's Ball with a curated menu by chef Wolfgang Puck and Vanity Fair hosting their annual Oscars party.
The real big winner apparently was Warner Brothers, and I think the bigger winner really were moviegoers. You know, cinema goers really got treated to some big films in 2025 and 2026, and we saw that play out on the big stage last night.
So many special golden moments last night, including Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters becoming the first K-pop song to win the Oscar for Best Original Song. Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Finally, another golden boy to tell you about. Meet Golden Paul Kelly. Yes, this is the son of our Katie Kelly and husband Josh. He was born March 10th, and as Katie predicted, healthy, 7 pounds, 7 ounces. We are told that he's already sleeping pretty well, healthy and happy. Katie wanted to share the news with viewers and let you all know, Mom, baby, Dad, they're all doing just great. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
With Aaron and Peter.
Win your share of $10,000 with Aaron and Peter's payroll.
Register now at move100halifax.ca and listen for your name starting at 8 a.m.
On the markets, the Dow opened up the trading week, a vast difference from last week, up 387 points. Inflation slowed in this country in February. Stats Canada reports the rate dropped under 2%. BNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez with the details.
Inflation for February came in at 1.8%. Part of the reason for that is the tax holiday that started at the end of 2024 carried through to mid-February of 2025. But experts say this could be the calm before the storm. The recent spike in energy prices will work its way into the inflation number for March. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is up to 73.10. West Texas Intermediate is down over $5 to 93.37. Western Canadian Select is up over $2 to 82.19. And the TSX gained back 334 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
We can hear the rain, even if we can't see the rain, Galen.
Yeah, it's coming down pretty good out here right now. Remember, this is round one of basically 2 rounds of rain that are going to be making their way across the Maritimes over the next 24 hours or so. But our viewer picture for tonight takes us to this past weekend. I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the snow up around Miramichi, and it was a very snowy scene after that weather system made its way through on Saturday. As you can see here, this picture was sent in courtesy of Linda Sweeney. I want to thank Linda very much for taking the time to share that with us. Of course, there's going to be a good deal of melt of that snow as the rain comes down in Miramichi for both tonight and tomorrow. It'll be clearing out in the early morning hours for Miramichi. High temperature tomorrow in the morning near 12 degrees, but the temperature will be falling in the afternoon as the wind becomes west. Taking a look at our day planner for tomorrow around the region, rain, drizzle, and fog to start the day, along with some high and gusty southerly winds. Remember, some of the strongest of those southerly winds will be coming into the southwest of New Brunswick and the southwest of Nova Scotia very early Tuesday morning before they work their way eastward across the region, which will happen as we move from the morning into the afternoon. By Tuesday afternoon, the rain should have cleared New Brunswick, be in the process of clearing western areas of Nova Scotia. Some of the rain will hold on into Tuesday evening for the eastern shore of Nova Scotia and Cape Breton before it exits off towards the northeast. And then in behind this weather system, we have temperatures that once again are going to be turning a little bit colder as we move through Tuesday night into Wednesday. Let's find out what's coming up on Your Morning Atlantic.
Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic, top of the morning to you.
It's St. Patrick's Day, and our hostess with the mostest, Suzette Bellevaux, will be here to make a classic stew.
Start your morning with us Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Coming up here tomorrow at 6, big decisions. New Brunswick outlines its fiscal future as the finance minister unveils the provincial budget. We'll have full coverage and a conversation with the finance minister tomorrow on CTV News at 6. You can also watch live on Crave. And finally tonight, a kickoff to St. Patrick's Day festivities in Halifax.
Good job.
The Irish flag was raised at noon today at the Grand Parade grounds downtown. The city's Irish roots extend back to the founding of the city in the mid-1700s. Much of the population of Halifax identifies as having Irish lineage. The party really gets going at Irish pubs, of course, tomorrow morning with music, breakfast, and yes, I'm sure there will be the odd green beer. That is our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco is here with your late update at 11:30. CTV News Atlantic.ca has the poll and news anytime. I'm Todd Battis. Hope to see you right back here for the St. Patrick's Day edition of your news. Until then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritimes' #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.